Moore went on to claim the Democrats will likely win the popular vote again, but lose the Electoral College. Damn you, Constitution! And that, of course, would mean 4 more years of President Trump. But Michael Moore, being Michael Moore, also mixed in some stupid with his bold 2020 prognostication in a Rolling Stone interview. He said this, quote, 2/3 of all white guys voted for Trump. That means anytime you see 3 white guys walking at you down the street toward you, 2 of them voted for Trump. You need to move over to the other sidewalk because these are not good people that are walking toward you. You should be afraid of them. Good Lord, that sounds an awful lot like Hillary's basket of deplorables. But you know what? Michael Moore would probably eat the basket. Oh, good people or not, the president is obviously still quite popular with his base. In fact, a new Gallup poll shows President Trump is now tied with former President Obama as the most admired man in America. What? What about Lincoln versus Washington? So does all of this point to a big re-election party come November? Maybe we should get the fireworks barge now. Well, let's meet tonight's party panel and talk about all of it. We've got Fox Nation host and author of Never Play Dead, Tomi Lahren, is in studio, along with liberal radio talk show host and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall, and former Republican California congressman, former House Oversight Committee chairman, and current candidate for California's 50th congressional district. Darrell Issa is back. Welcome, everyone. Woo!
Great to be on, Kennedy.
Yes,
hi.
So let's talk about Michael Moore a little bit, because he was absolutely right in 2016. He was one of the few people. There was so much hubris going around on the left about President Trump, and they assumed because they hated him so much, there was no way he was going to get elected. Is Michael Moore just trying to scare people into being excited about voting against the president, or is he right?
Perhaps he'd like to be a liberal that's right, and he is. Look, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally. The fact is, in the Midwest, those people he's talking about, they have jobs, they have vacation homes, they're seeing industry building back. They have every reason to vote for him and vote for him in higher numbers. Yeah. Well, California is about to lose a congressional seat because it's got a net out migration of historic, residents.
That's true. No, California is bleeding residents to places like Texas, but
I know, and it's really being objected to in Texas now. They say they don't want any more of our politics.
They really don't. It's funny. We'll see what happens. You almost got Senator Beto. So let's talk a little bit about other things that Moore said, and I think he's right here because he said Democrats cannot nominate a Republican light. And, what he's saying is some of these moderate candidates who did very well in 2018, a lot of those House races. But I think there's something to the idea that if the Democratic Party, which is really being split at the seams into progressive and moderate camps, which are naturally warring against each other, if they do nominate a more conservative moderate, it's going to be off-putting to the point where the president will be easily reelected. So what do you do about that?
Well, I hope he's wrong, because I hope Democrats learned from 2016, because that's pretty much what happened.
He also said don't nominate Hillary because she was awful.
Well, 12% of Bernie's supporters voted for Trump just despite Hillary. A number of them stayed home, which certainly helped her.
Yeah.
But something she didn't do to help herself is she tried to demonize the supporters of Trump. I don't see Biden doing that. I see Biden demonizing Trump, not the supporters. I know a lot of Republicans, friends of mine in California, who don't like the president, but they'd be open to voting for Joe Biden. So I don't agree with Michael Moore. I understand regarding the Democrats and their angst about having a moderate candidate, but this is a 50-state race. And if you get out of the primary, which you have to once you have the nominee, there are a lot of people out there that might vote for a Joe Biden over a Bernie Sanders. So my party's belief that, the farther left we go, the better it is and the safer it is. I'm sorry, but the data doesn't show that in exit polling from midterms and in exit polling even from 2016.
Yes, but it's interesting because you look at Joe Biden and a lot of Democrats are like, yeah, he's still ahead in the polls, but they're not comfortable with him. Then every other week there's a new Democrat. For a while it was Elizabeth Warren, and then she couldn't pay for her plan, and so she's dropped in the polls. And then it was my boyfriend, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and he couldn't hold on to the momentum. And now there was a headline and a few stories on Drudge about Bernie Sanders That might be our guy. Michael Moore is saying you have to nominate someone like Bernie Sanders. Would Democrats do it?
You have to nominate them to get people excited and to fire up the base, which is, by the way, why I think they're going through with all this impeachment witch hunt nonsense, not because I think that they're actually going to remove the president, because they need to do something to fire up their base. Joe Biden is not going to do that. So to fire up the base and get people talking, they're going to need to nominate a socialist. They're going to need to bring socialists to the ranks. But when people
but I want to ask you, because I remember 2016 very well, and those Bernie supporters had been disengaged from establishment politics and party politics for a long time. That's why they love Bernie. Are they still there? And has Bernie, you know, he had a heart attack, but he seems stronger than ever. Has he built on that momentum and that goodwill that he had in 2016? You're shaking your head no.
When you just look at the numbers, a lot of his
over is over.
Well, a lot of the base have gone to Elizabeth Warren, and I have to say this: I know Senator Sanders.
He's polling better than she is.
And what day is it? What day is it, and what time is it?
But if you look at the RCP trends, she has been trending downward. Bernie has actually been trending upward, and I think they do. You're right. They have a group of supporters that's kind of toggling back and forth between them. Like, which commie do we like better?
I think very similar to Donald Trump, that Bernie Sanders has that, you know, hardcore group that supports him. But I have to say that I saw him in 2016. I saw him a few weeks ago in Iowa when I moderated the debate for the Democrats. Yes. And he was a different Bernie.
He is a different Bernie. Some would say stronger. Some would say Yoda.
No, I wouldn't
Yoda
say
maybe,
stronger.
But, you know, when you said 50 state, I think you fell into just where the Democrats' problem. This is an 11-state race.
That's absolutely right.
And you know, when you say your friends in
California,
that was
Michael Moore's point.
Hopefully, I'm one of your friends in California. But this is a
Don't
state.
tell people.
This is a state. Yeah, exactly. This is a state, particularly in my primary. But this is a state where 4 million more people are going to vote for whoever the Democrat is than the Republican, which is how you get a popular vote. Is California alone? So California, at a minimum, doesn't matter at all presidentially. No matter how popular you are here, you have nothing to do with whether you carry Michigan.
But Pennsylvania does.
Pennsylvania
Joe Biden
does.
Will
well, speaking of Joe Biden, Gaff-tastic Joe is reversing course after causing a bit of controversy. Oh, there's another flip-flop. He's got so many he could wear them to the beach. On Friday, the former VP told the Des Moines Register he would not comply with the Senate impeachment trial subpoena, saying that would distract from President Trump's behavior. Remember this? Take a look.
Do you stand by your earlier statements that you wouldn't comply if you were subpoenaed to testify in an impeachment trial before the Senate?
Correct. And the reason I wouldn't is because it's all designed to deal with Trump doing what he's done his whole life, trying to take the focus off him.
All he wants is the focus on him. That's one of the dumbest statements. What a horrible analysis. But failure to comply with congressional subpoenas, that's part of the reason the House voted to impeach the president in the first place. And since Friday, Sleepy Joe has tried to clarify his remarks numerous times, claiming he always complies with lawful orders from Congress. And this morning, he was still trying to clean up the mess. Watch.
I am not going to legitimate what this president is trying to do. Obviously, if I was subpoenaed, I respond. But there is no legitimacy whatsoever to my being subpoenaed to testify in his impeachment. The issue is, what did he do?
What did he do? So will Biden's constant backtracking eventually hurt his chances of winning the big White House? Tomi, what's so interesting about this impeachment push, and it puts Joe Biden in a very tough situation, is the whole thing centers around Ukraine. And Ukraine centers around Burisma. And Burisma centers around the Biden. So no matter what he does and what misdirection he tries to employ, it's still, this whole impeachment gambit is going to be very tough for Joe Biden.
Well, he's projecting again, which most Democrats do when they're put and they're backed into a corner. He's talking about, oh, Trump doesn't want the focus on him. As you said, Trump always wants the focus on him. And we can look at what Trump did, and the American people can decide if they like it or if they don't. You can read the call transcripts. You can hear what the president's saying about it. But we still don't quite know what happened with Joe Biden. And so he's getting very uncomfortable. And if you notice, the more he's put on camera, the more he slips. So eventually, if they just keep asking him about it, I don't think we're going to need to subpoena him. I think he's going to accidentally spill the beans, because I don't think that he is fit to be president. I don't think that he's mentally capable and stable right now of becoming even a presidential candidate. So I think he's going to give us everything we need if we just keep asking right now.
It was really interesting because it's true. Like, Republicans and the administration are in this spot because of the subpoenas that were not adhered to or complied with during the impeachment inquiry hearings. Elizabeth Warren she went up Joe going, you have to comply. And that's when he reversed course. So whenever you reverse course like that, you have lost the issue.
But that's not an issue voters really care about. I mean, even though
it's an issue voters
it
care
isn't. It isn't. Not at all. Which is why I will say this is not politically motivated by Democrats. And I know people think I'm crazy for saying that, but I'm not. I believe it's true.
No, I think it's
if it were politically motivated, they wouldn't be pushing it, and they wouldn't have voted for it.
This is not a mutual exclusivity. You can actually have both at the same time. You can have a politically motivated impeachment that really doesn't follow any grounded political instincts, and that's what the Democrats
But if you
have
could
done.
possibly lose seats, which Democrats could in the House for voting for the 2 articles of impeachment against the president,
then
it
isn't
a good motivation politically. But back to Joe Biden, I don't think that his saying it, I don't think his clarifying and correcting it is going to hurt him with Democrats or even people or independents or Republicans that might vote for him if he becomes the nominee, which we had discussed. I think he is. And in addition to that, to me, you have to comply with the subpoena, period. And to me, I think it's shameful, left or right, if anybody does not comply with the subpoena that is issued by Congress.
A lot of people that sued over the subpoenas, and Joe Biden might do the same.
Joe Biden just happens to be running as the successor to Barack Obama about the administration. Well, that was an administration where they lied about documents. They were held in contempt. The court, by the way, a Barack Obama judge eventually ordered tens of thousands of documents to be delivered that made it clear that they had lied about it while they were withholding. So you're right about one thing. It isn't a big thing now. But if Joe Biden is the nominee, and now we're talking about one transcript in which the president said, let's look into corruption, and then you're talking about the corruption of the last administration and withholding, I think it's going to be a great dialogue that isn't going to go away.
No, and they are going to make it a bigger deal, and I think Senate Republicans could take the challenge, and you don't have to have a circus. You don't have to have, a stream of bearded ladies in order to make your point that, this corruption has run past and before this administration, and certainly Ukraine is a magnet for that, thus showing that if you were going to impeach this president for engaging in Ukrainian corruption, you would have to retroactively impeach all of them.
And as somebody who President Obama, I'm very proud, said that I had chutzpah for holding him accountable. The whole world had to learn Yiddish just because of that. But the fact is that if the debate is about use of power versus abuse of power, then he's got a problem, because the abuse of power, I call it use of power, by the last administration far exceeds anything that this administration has done.
You can make that case in the president's defense. We'll see what they do a little bit later.